The most recent earthquake along the southernmost 100 kilometers of the San Andreas Fault was recorded around 1726 AD, about 300 years ago. However, the estimated recurrence interval of the last 7 earthquakes along this stretch of the southern San Andreas Fault range between about 100 years to 200 years. So, if you are concerned about the large amount of elastic strain that has accumulated on this stretch of the San Andreas Fault since the most recent earthquakes and the possibility of a big one in the near future, you are not alone. My name is Dr. Saurabh Saha, and along with my collaborators, I'm trying to understand whether earthquake cycles along the southern San Andreas Fault are regulated by factors such as lake loadings. And I'll be discussing our project on reconstructing the long-term subsidence and paleoseismic history of the ancient Lake Cahuilla along the southern San Andreas Fault in Coachella, California. Figure 1 here is showing the present Salton Sea for reference. And the major faults such as the southern San Andreas Fault over here, the extensional step-over faults of the Salton Sea, and the Imperial Fault. The Colorado River, which is shown here flowing towards the southwest, actually diverted several times to the Cahuilla Basin in the past and filled the ancient Lake Cahuilla. The yellow polygon is showing the shoreline of the ancient Lake Cahuilla. And please note that our study site Coachella is located over here along the shoreline of Lake Cahuilla on the southern San Andreas Fault. Another site that I will be discussing in this poster is the border SCEC site on the Imperial Fault. The existing paleoseismic and column stress models of the Cahuilla Basin suggest high rupture potentiality of this strike slip and normal faults to rapid stress loading associated with the filling of the ancient Lake Cahuilla. So we want to try and test the hypothesis if the lake cycles, that's lake filling and drying, of the ancient Lake Cahuilla potentially triggered surface rupture along the southern San Andreas Fault. To test the hypothesis, we therefore extracted a continuous sedimentary core using CME 85 rigs on this structural depression, which is shown over here. Please note that this site already has published paleoseismic trench records that includes lake and earthquake chronologies. Our goal is to extending that record to the Mid-Holocene. Here in this figure, we're showing the field photos of the core extraction. The core segments were collected in 5 feet long plastic liners for maximum recovery. A total of 33.5 meter core was extracted, and each liner were covered immediately with aluminum foil to prevent further sunlight exposure, largely because we want to date these samples using luminescence dating. This figure is exhibiting the stratigraphic log of the 50% of the core. We are currently drying the rest of the core for logging and sampling purposes. So the previous trench studies found alternate sand-rich and clay-rich layers. They interpreted the sand-rich units as the subaerial units and the clay-rich units as the lacustrine units. So based on this interpretation, so far we found as much as 12 lake loading events in the 16.8 meter core. We are currently also collecting samples for luminescence dating, which are shown here in yellow star, and also samples for detailed grain size measurements, which we are trying to do to supplement the current stratigraphic log. We are also expecting organic matters preserved in some of the units, which we plan as an independent dating control. You may ask why this study was then necessary if you already have high resolution paleoseismic trench records at the Coachella site. Well, the existing paleoseismic records at the Cahuilla Basin only date back to 1,000 years to 2,000 years. And depending upon the research group, the interpretation of some of these stratigraphic units varies a lot. That makes it harder to answer whether there is a strong correlation between lake loadings and past earthquake ruptures in Cahuilla Basin. For example, if you look at the figure over here, here the edges are shown in the x-axis and the average lake depth in y-axis. The lake loadings are shown in blue and the earthquake events are shown in black rectangles. Interestingly, the original study interprets some of the lake units as the subaerial units, which are shown over in red. But if you correct some of this insertion, what you can see is that most of these earthquake events happening when the lake was high. So extending this record back to the Mid-Holocene may have the potentiality to answer these big questions. For more discussion, please join us at the SCEC online poster gallery.